Alright guys, so today I'm going to be working on the forward drum. My seals came, my lip seals, new ones came, and unfortunately the inner lip seal that came was for the piston, not for the center on the drum. So I'm going to leave the center drum lip seal out and we'll put this thing together. So I did end up buying these new. I originally wasn't going to change them, but I decided to just go ahead and do it because I thought I was buying this one. It ended up not being the right seal, but I did order the two piston lip seals, and you can see that this is a lot tighter on here. So I was going to reuse them, but they were like really loose and baggy on there, and I was having a hard time with it. So it didn't really work out as I was planning. So I'm going to put some assembly lube on the lip seal all the way around. I do have some fluid inside the drum. And basically what was happening is I was really struggling with that inner seal on the drum, and I wasn't able to get it to go. So all I'm using now is a 20 thousandths feeler gauge, and I'm just going to go all the way around, make sure that lip seal is in the drum. All right. So there we go. Now it'll drop down, and it does move freely inside of there. I can go ahead and assemble it the same way as the direct drum, put the springs in. Alright, so get that down. I'm going to compress it, put the snap ring on. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I did buy a 12-ton press, so instead of doing it on the with the clamps like I was doing it before, I decided to get a press, Harbor Freight press, like 130 bucks. So we'll look at that. All right, so here it is, the 12-ton press. One of the reasons I decided to get this thing was because the input shaft is connected to the drum. So I did have a method that was actually working pretty decent with some wood clamps underneath the drum, but just decided to go with this thing because it wasn't too expensive, and it'll save me a little bit of headache, and I can use it for some other stuff. All right, so I just got that same piece of bent exhaust tubing, 3-inch exhaust tubing that I cut out on top of the spring plate. All right, so I got the snap ring on. Release that. Now it's compressed. All right, now we can start to put the clutches in there. And this kit is going to take it from a 5 to a 6. So I'm going to put the one in. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. As we get those all in there, we're going to take this little hub here, get this thing down, seated all the way. And you can hear it hit metal on metal. I'll put pressure plate on. Snap ring. We should be good. All right, so next I'm going to put the forward drum in here. I'm going to make sure that this little thrust washer is on top of the direct drum. That should be good. So what I'm going to do, just like the other drum, I'm going to verify it. I'm going to pull it back out, make sure all of the clutches were lined up, which it doesn't look like they were. So I'm going to go back through and do this again. It's a good thing I verified it. There, now it's all the way down. So it still had about 2 more clutches to get past. So just to double check. Yeah, all the clutches are lined up. So I'm just going to put it back in and listen for that same sound. There we go. Now it's in. So next we do pump gasket and pump. Okay, so before I do the pump, I put the center support bolt in just to make sure everything is in the right position. Like if that's not seated right, then it's going to push everything forward a little bit. So got that in there, made sure that's good and tight. I'm going to do the pump. Okay, so pump. I put the pump gasket on. I did take some assembly lube and stick it on the back side of the gasket just so when I stick this thing down, it doesn't want to move around on me. Make sure all the holes are lined up as decent as they can be. I'll grab the pump, put the pump on. I'm going to put some assembly lube around the sealing rings here, just kind of get some lube on it. I'll put it down over the top. A little bit of lube on this bushing here. I'm just going to kind of eyeball the holes as I drop it down and try to get them lined up as decent as I can. Double check. Because I spun it and I thought I might have spun it while it was on the gasket, so make sure the gasket's in the right spot still. There's 6 pump bolts. I'm just going to hand thread, get the thread started. All right, so got them hand tight. Now I'm going to go through with the torque wrench and we'll torque them down. I want to say these things are like 18 foot-pounds. Alrighty. Alright, next we're going to be doing the rear servo. So this section's going to come out. Reuse all the stock springs, but this seal's going to come off. This seal's going to come off, and then we reinstall it. So this one's orange. I actually pulled it out of a 4L80 because my spring was broken when I pulled it apart. So lucky I had a spare. So now I'm going to put this thing in here. Like that. All right, and then you put the gasket on. Make sure that this servo is down below the surface there. And you can put the servo cover on and put the bolts in. Just tightening. Okay, so now that we got this on, we're going to be taking this little guy out of here. There's 3 little tabs on there. I just broke them off. Well, they broke themselves off. As soon as I pushed on them, they snapped off. So this is going to come out. The new one that is provided with the Transbrake kit is going to go in, and then this is going to be your wire connection for the Transbrake solenoid. So I'm just going to do this, stick this thing in there, and simple as that. Just remember to put the O-ring on there. I wiggled this thing, remembered, I felt it was a little loose. It doesn't have the O-ring on it, so make sure you take the O-ring off of the old one and put it on there. So I almost missed that. I'm just gonna stuff this thing right back in there. Don't want it to leak. It does use a stock modulator valve. It says in the instructions, should not be modified in any way. So if you know you modified it, I mean, I pulled it out and inspected it. There wasn't any like grinding marks or anything weird, but it does come with this plug right there. So this plug is gonna go in. I did put some assembly lube on the plug. There's an O-ring inside there. And then this thing is going to go on here and hold the plug in. This is going to be replacing your vacuum modulator. This would normally go inside there. You take that off, put the plug on, tighten that down. There you go. Okay, so next we're going to put in a little speedo sensor thingy. So we're going to get this thing in position. We're pretty close. There you go, and there's 2 little tabs. Where this plate goes in. I'm just going to get this thing hand threaded in. There we go. Now it's in straight. Couple little wacky whacks. And I'm just going to verify inside here that the gears are actually engaged and turning. That all looks good. And this section on the back for the governor, this is going to be left out. So the valve body doesn't have the governor lubrication tubes, so we're just going to leave the governor out and put the plate back on, and we'll call it a day. Alright, so here is the valve body, and it has this separate removable section here, and valve body comes apart from the separator plate. There is no gaskets with this kit. It just has the aluminum separator plate, and it does come with this little check ball right here. So I'm going to put some assembly lube on the check ball just so it's a little bit sticky, and then roll around when I flip it over. So there's this little, you can see that it's kind of beveled for the ball on both sides. So I'm going to put that guy in there, and I'm going to kind of stick it there. So just like that, so it doesn't move around like when I flip it upside down. Shouldn't really be a big deal because the separator plate's going to go right on top of it. I'll probably do the same thing. Let's do this with some assembly lube. We'll just goober it on there. Just so it sticks, doesn't slide around. It's kind of nice. It's good for that. So get this thing nice and stuck down. Flip her over. This is going to go on top of here. And then the manual valve goes inside here. I did assembly lube this already, so this thing moves freely. And then we should be ready to put it on top. All right, so it does recommend in the instructions going over this with like a whetstone or a flat file. I don't feel any burrs or anything, so I'm not really gonna worry about it. But it doesn't use gaskets, so I think it's relying on the softness of the aluminum to kind of take up any high spots or anything, so that's why it recommends the filing. So let's just put this little guy on over like this. We'll get it lined up as best we can. Very important to make sure that the shifter selector is inside of the manual valve. Just like any other transmission build, anytime you do the valve body, always make sure that that manual valve is inside the little selector. Alright, so that looks pretty close. All the holes look lined up. Set this on top. We'll start putting the bolts in. Alright, so the orientation of the bolts is a little bit odd. You're going to have 3 long bolts and 5 short bolts that have the 12-point head on them. So the short ones go here in this section of the valve body. The longer ones go here to hold the detent down, and then here and here to hold the shift solenoid on there. So this is going to go on top of here. You're going to have long, 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 and then these are all short on this side here. So before I tighten this down, I'm going to pull this back off, because you also have this little guy right here, this Allen head, that goes underneath for clearance. So we'll tighten this guy down, put this guy on here. I did already put the terminals on. I wanted to put the terminals on before I put this down. So I'm gonna put this wire over here to the pass-through connector, and then I can just select kind of whatever area I want to put this thing. So maybe we'll just put it right on this guy. Right over here. We'll start tightening these down. So I'll kind of snug each one individually. All right, so that should be good. So we got the shifter selector. Seems like it's working fine. Moves the manual valve, so that's park right there. Park. Got the wires all good in there. If you're wondering what this extra threaded spot is for, that should be for our filter. So that's going to be the filter section, the filter holder. So yeah, there you go. So we're going to apply power here. It's grounded to the case, activates the Transbrake solenoid, and then you got some launchy launch. So I am going to go through and I'm going to torque all these. Again, we're going to do like the same 18 foot-pounds. I don't even know if I'm going to go that much. just gonna make sure they're good and tight. We'll talk about that. How's that sound? I just don't want to strip any of these out. I have stripped these out in the past on different transmissions, and I kind of know what they feel like when they're about to strip out. So I'm gonna choose to not overdo it, even though the wrench isn't clicking. There we go. You got to click there. Click there. Click there. They don't take much. Just really don't want to strip them out. All right, boys. So that's that. Next we got filter. All right, so we got the filter there. We got the little filter neck. Put some assembly lube on here. Go ahead and twist that thing on. Put a little spacer underneath. All right, next we got the pan gasket. We'll put the pan gasket on. And I think you guys know the rest from here. We just throw the pan on, tighten the bolts, all done. Alrighty, fellers. So that's about it. Pan's on. Everything's good. Transbrake is in there. Got the Red Alto Power Pack clutches. And next video will be probably installing it and getting the engine and everything back in. I'm just going to leave the engine as it was. So just like this for now. So we got the new twins going to go on. I'm probably going to leave as much of the turbo setup the same as I can. Same Gen 3 rods. What I want to do with the car is, I'm pretty sure I've decided I want to leave the Gen 3 rods in there and then just spend time dialing in the car and the suspension before upgrading to like Gen 4 or whatever. It'll go a long way with how light the car is on Gen 3 rods. So twins, Gen 3 rods, Transbrake, dial the car, and then start to upgrade from there. If we start breaking stuff or whatever, I really think it's going to go a long way on Gen 3 stuff. So we're going to test that. It'll be fun. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good one. There's a thumb.